So, Bill, you're starting this meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got the agenda here somewhere.
No, it's there, but it's here. So let me find it here.
Sure.
in my-
1 second.
Go ahead and you can go ahead and start.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good. Okay. Thanks, Prakash. There's nobody in the room, so let's start the meeting. I call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Okay. And we've got 1, 2, 3.
Can we just get the name of user?
Yeah, we see Bennett, Aaron, Bob, Samantha. I don't know who the user is.
I think if they speak, they would need to identify themselves.
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Be nice to know who's here.
That's fine. So I show 5 online. Bennett, 5 online. Nobody in the room. All right.
So the first thing is to approve the
Minutes.
agenda.
Approve the agenda. Okay. I have a motion. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
A second on that?
Second.
Second, Prakash. All those in favor of the agenda say aye. Aye. Okay.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm still trying to pull up the agenda here. It'll go the long way
I want
around.
to make sure I go do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is approval of minutes.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
correspondence.
All right.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Could I have a motion for approval of the minutes, please?
So moved.
Second from Prakash. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any outside correspondence that we're aware of?
You should send you an email.
Yeah, just sent it.
Yes. So I guess we're gonna have to do this because I'm not getting it.
Sam, who'd you send the email to?
The PRCAC comment, and then I know Allison forwarded it to everybody when she got it.
Yeah. Oh, boy, I'm on a new computer here, folks, so
Is this with respect to the dog park?
Yeah.
yeah.
If there's no other correspondence, you could move to the open session and I can tell you what I emailed you about.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of correspondence, Bill and Anel, about the 2 topics that I'm responsible for, or I shouldn't say a lot,
Yes.
but there's some correspondence
Right.
about broadband and also about the WTA. But if we
Yes.
get into that, we'll basically be jumping into that discussion. So I prefer to hold off until we get to those agenda items.
Okay. All right, Prakash. So the only other one, Sam, is that the one with the dog park?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, I suggest that we delay your comments until the agenda item for dog park. Okay, with
Yeah, I see that.
are we still on?
Sam?
Yeah. Can you move it up
we-
the agenda? Because it just sounds like your WTA and things are going to be bigger issues. And all I want to do is just tell you my idea.
Okay. So
I don't care if I'm after a couple of items, but I don't want to be after the big ones.
okay.
So Sam?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Sam.
So I know you guys have been having a lot of discussion about the dog park, and I know that it was put forward to Whatcom County Parks, and it was kind of a flat, what we call flat response or a delayed response, and they basically said, you will talk about it in 2024 and maybe get a budget to you. So I've been thinking about it, and what I wondered was whether in the interim of waiting for Whatcom County Parks to do a fenced dog area, which I expect is going to have a fairly significant budget, even though it shouldn't. It will probably cost a couple $100,000 just because everything does when the county's involved. What would PRAC be willing to consider supporting an off-leash area around the old water tower, which is on Point Roberts Park's land, is behind.
Sorry, Sam, I just need to interrupt you. The park, the water district flatly told us no. That's not an option. And you're right, it would be a perfect solution, but the water department said no.
But isn't it on Point Roberts Park's lands, not on water district land?
I don't think so.
I think it's on Point Roberts Park's land, Bennett.
No, it is water district. They own the property around the water. You're talking about the old water tower, not the new one, correct?
The old one that's right behind the fire department.
That property is owned by the water district. It's surrounded by the park district, but I believe it's 5 acres up there that is water district property right around it's either 5 or 10 acres that's owned by the water district up there.
And so where does the park section end?
If you walk up the service road, it ends basically where it wides to go to the right to Bakerfield, and then if you get up, they actually let our trail cut through a little corner of the property there, going as you're following the trail over to Johnson, the one that goes. So there's a little teeny piece of it starts beyond that in the forest, actually in the forest area. It starts about 100 feet into the forest there. There is actually a marker in there, a property marker.
Because I mean, I think there's definitely a need for an off-leash area, and I think there's an opportunity to have a unfenced off-leash area. And my suggestion was to have something that the community has to fundraise for the signage. The community has to help with the trails so that they show investment. And if they show investment over a 6-month period, then you can actually justify having it. And, like the cost of signs would be very low. But all right, so you're telling me Bakerfield, the section that is parks is only Bakerfield and behind Bakerfield?
No, it's Bakerfield. It's from if you look at the assessor's maps, you can actually pull it up on the.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, and you'll see where the water district property is located in the middle there. But it goes, the property goes from Benson all the way along what's her name? The people on the horses over there, all the way to Johnson. And then from Johnson, when it reaches Johnson, it goes over to actually including the road that goes up to the transfer station is park property, and property on the other side of the road that goes up to the transfer station is park property for about 100 feet. Then if you go up to the transfer station right before the parking lot, that becomes the county and transfer station property, and it cuts west again. And then our property runs just along the edge of the transfer station property, all the way to the almost all the way to the service road, and that's where the water district property begins, right there. So it's like a little island in the middle.
In the middle there.
Yeah, so their property is like a little island in the middle of the Bakerfield property.
Is there any space that would be on the outside? Like, is there a trail that could go around the water district acreage that could be an off-leash trail? Like, because you can have, like, so in Vancouver and in Delta.
They even have that the lower meadow area where a lot of people cut through. That's water district property. That's one of the reasons when we built a trail around that, because You know, well, it always flooded every year too. There's about 600 feet that floods it.
Yeah,
And,
I know exactly where
you know
that is.
you know where I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually that section there is water district property, and it's really, it can get really nasty in the winter, in the fall, winter, and spring. But yeah, yeah, it's limited property up there. I mean, that's different than the property. You may want to ask Stan about the property around the water tower, because that's different than the property around their large tank. The property around their large tank would be the ideal place for a dog park, and because it's so big and open there, everyone knows that. But one of the problems they had is when they got that property, one of the caveats for getting the property for that tank is the only thing that would go there is the water tank. That's it. Nothing else. They have very strong restrictions on the use of that property right there, and that's why Dan keeps saying no. But if you ask him about the water tank at the property in over by Baker Field, I don't know what he would say. I don't know what they would say about that. You could ask him about it, because there is some flat property around there.
Well, and it's not next to the school. It's not next to Baker Field, and it's not particularly next to, if you go.
I know what you're asking. I don't know what the water, it is the water district's property, and you would have to ask. You'd really have to
so I have this
that.
comment to make about my interactions with the water district. For Volunteer Appreciation Day, we made a request of the water district that we be allowed to have people park on the property. They went to their insurance company, and their insurance company is the insurance company for all of the water districts in the state. And their insurance is very, very restrictive. So I would imagine that the likelihood of their insurance company allowing for anybody on the property other than water district employees is slim to none.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Sam, I like all of your ideas about community participation and ownership of the project. When we started this several years ago, we had conversations with the Parks and Rec, like Roberts Parks and Rec. We were essentially told no, that there's no place appropriate. And the place in Lighthouse Park emerged as the only place where it made sense to do it.
I remember those discussions. I just thought that the reason that Baker Field got kicked to the curb was that there were some people running their dogs in the field part, and they weren't following the limited hours, and so they basically pissed a commissioner off or something.
There were other reasons too.
Okay.
We had dogs that were running over into the horse paddocks. We had 3 dog bite incidents up there with kids. They were running the dogs when the school was going in session, and we had 3 dog bite incidents up there. There were multiple reasons. And the other thing
that wouldn't have happened if the area had been fenced.
I know, but Anel, the agreement with the school is that the kids have when the school is built there, is that the school has full use of Baker Field for their kids, and if you start making it for a dog park, you're getting it into a situation where you'd have to agree with not only the park district but also the school district. From talking with the school district, they don't want dogs up there when the schools are in session, period.
Well, that's why I was thinking that other section, because it's adjacent, but it's not, you don't go over there if you're playing at the school fields, right?
Yeah. So all of
I understand what you're saying, but there's actually a legal restriction from not putting a permanent.
I didn't understand that, Bennett. So what we have, Sam, is as I said, we talked to, we explored all these different options, and the location at Lighthouse Park emerged as for a lot of different reasons. A primary one being that so many people walk their dogs at Lighthouse Park already. And so many people walk their dogs at Lighthouse Park off leash already. So, so that location, which is really totally and completely unused, you never see anybody there.
Oh, I know,
You
but
never
you
see.
got turned down. That's why I was putting back an alternate solution, because they basically
Right.
said, no, not now, if not ever.
Right.
The only thing
Well,
is that we got turned down by the park board. That doesn't mean the park board can't be pressured into moving it up. And you have,
Exactly.
that's where you have to really go through the county executive and the county council to put pressure on the park board to put that at the front of the agenda instead of the rear of the agenda.
Right. So, so now I'll present my report as to the dog park. It was my assignment to write a letter, a cover letter, once again, outlining our position and making a very strong case and perhaps something of a strident request, or quasi demand that, the master plan is a great idea, but we've been put aside for years and years and years now, and it's time. And so in the process of writing and tearing up each of those letters over and over and over again, because I found myself being snide and snarky in the letters rather than diplomatic and appropriate, it occurred to me that writing another letter and sending them another attachment is not going to accomplish anything. I'm going to make an appointment and go there with fresh copies of the proposal and sit down in front of Satpal Sidhu, and I'll invite whoever would like to go with me to go with, and have a conversation with Satpal Sidhu, then with Bennett Knox, and then with the county council if need be. So I'm just going to proceed putting it in front of them and making them say no to me or yes to me, preferably saying yes to me over and over and over again.
Okay, so I'm on the map for Whatcom County Assessor, Anel, and
Yep.
that property that the water district owns is really small compared to what property there would be available to us to do an off-leash area, not anywhere near the school.
Actually, it's at least 5 acres there.
I know, but I'm looking at the map, and let me see if I can share my screen with you.
Didn't we already discover that the water district territory was not even a possibility?
It's not, but it's not as big as it sounds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at this, it looks like this middle section is the water district and the rest of it is Point Roberts Parks.
Yeah.
So it's not, that means there's a huge section on the left below 153411.
That's all forest.
Okay, but dogs can be off leash in a forest.
Well, not, owners need to be able to have sight of,
Well, but there's trails in there, you guys, because people use that property whether they're allowed to or not.
Okay, well, we can certainly put that to the community, but Bennett, you were at the meeting on Tuesday night. I was not able to attend.
No, I was not at the.
Oh,
Yeah, I was not
okay.
at the park meeting.
Okay, so we can certainly ask questions regarding a location there if the Parks Department, Point Roberts Park Department can imagine that there might be a place for them to put us.
Like even if it's a 15, like there's the fire lane on the left of 153422.
Yeah.
That there is access all the way along there. And 153419 is the fire hall. So that has public parking. So, I mean, I thought what you were talking about, Bennett, was quite a large parcel, but in the scheme of things, there's still a lot of property back there that if the people were willing to help or just explore, there's a lot of there's more property there than it.
You were talking about the water district, and that's what I was referring to, Samantha.
Yeah.
I wasn't referring to any. I wasn't referring to any of the park district property, any of the Bakerfield property, which is the 66 acres back there.
Yes. Yeah. So I just didn't want, what I was suggesting, to be clear, is the area that accesses either from the road between the fire building and the water district, or the lane that goes beside, so that you're not going in at the same place as people who are going to go to school or to play. And so the left part of this parcel, not the right part of this parcel, because what I understood to be the problem was with the existing dog park arrangement was that it overlapped with the school and the kids. So there's actually a whole bunch of spot over here.
So basically what you're asking is you want to talk to the park board again about it.
Well, I want to know if there's any appetite from PRCAC, who are the ones that have been championing a dog park, to potentially take a stab at a different idea while we wait to see if there's any traction in 2024 on Lily Point, because it's a totally different thing off leash, and I mean off leash without a fence and off leash with a fence.
I understand that, Samantha, but what you're asking is PRCAC to look at getting the park district to look at the Bakerfield property again for a dog park. That's what you're asking them.
Yes, and I'm happy to actually go to the Parks Board, but I understood that you guys were the first stop on the dog park issue.
I'm quite okay with taking a look at that at the same time as pursuing it with the county.
Okay.
So are you in town this weekend, Sam?
I am. I'm gonna screen capture this, and also we actually have a picture of this, because we kind of need, I didn't know.
Screen capture the
map, just so I have
the map.
idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, good. So if there's any, yeah, it's going to be a nice weekend. So maybe we can meet over there and tromp through the area and see what it looks like.
Yeah, and I will quit bugging you guys. I just thought it's like, it's a pretty big area, and it's not very well used, and it's publicly owned. Mm-hmm. Insofar as parks are publicly owned.
Yes, and there are already a lot of people who take their dogs back there. So if it was more structured and organized, institutionalized, it would probably be better, more utilized and better cared for.
And also it could be a trial, like you can try something for 6 months, and provided it doesn't when you have the direct intention of it not overlapping the school area, but actively using a different part of a public asset, that's a win, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So thank you, Sam.
So just real quick, because we went from that conversation about correspondence to public comment in a way. Is there anybody else here that has any other public comment now? Anybody? Okay. All right, that's good. All right, so we'll go to old business first, and an update overview on the potential financial levy from Point Roberts for the Point Roberts Park District. Is there someone here to give an update on that?
I think so.
Nope.
No.
Nope, I guess not. Okay. How about the
fire chief supposed to be there? I don't know what, I thought
yeah.
fire chief was supposed to come back to provide an update on that. It was not.
Not here, not here, not in the room. So the next, we'll go to the next point, and that's Whatcom Transportation Authority update.
Okay, let me start, and then I'm sure Anel has additional information to share. So we've been corresponding with Les Reardons, the GM for the WTA, and our recommendation or the result of the previous meetings have been that the circle of care has emerged as the leading choice in terms of providing a van service based on a van that would be provisioned by WTA and made available to the circle of care, and then the circle of care would staff it with volunteers to provide a more flexible service to the community. So that's kind of the plan A that WTA has been pursuing. Recently, I think it was last week, September 17th, Les sent a letter to the Circle of Care outlining kind of a non-binding terms for what such an arrangement might look like. And basically it says WTA will provide a newer 15-passenger van in good working order. All WTA logos will be removed. WTA will provide a yet-to-be-determined annual amount to cover operating and maintenance costs, such as fuel, maintenance, and insurance costs. Circle of Care will maintain and service the van. Out of these costs, we will need to discuss how to best monetize these costs. Circle of Care will be responsible for coordinating and scheduling trips. And then Circle of Care will provide and train drivers. I'm just summarizing the bullet points that Les had in that email to, or that letter to the Circle of Care. This was directed to the board of directors, and my understanding is the Circle of Care board of directors met earlier this week, was it, Anel? And
Yes.
this is
Yes.
where
We did. However, because of a computer glitch, Galen didn't get that letter, and so it didn't get on the agenda. And because neither Les nor Miranda were at the meeting, we did not discuss it. We tabled it until the
Okay.
next meeting.
So when is the next meeting?
It will be I think we made it the 30th of October.
Wow, that's quite a ways
Yeah.
away. Do you think
Quite a
there's
ways
any
out.
way to do a special meeting? I mean, I would hate to push this out into the holiday season.
Well, I can certainly ask. We have on the Monday night, the 23rd, there's a candidates night already scheduled.
I mean, this would be a special meeting of the Circle of Care Board of Directors, not, just to be clear, not PRCAC.
Right, but I'm just talking about conflicts. I
Oh,
can ask.
Yeah.
It's a very busy couple of months for us coming up. But yes, I can ask if we can convene a special meeting. I think it would be good to coordinate with Les just to make
Yeah.
sure that he will be available for this one.
Great. Yeah, if you could do that, I think that would be excellent. Right now, this is, I think, not only the leading, but to me, it looks like the only viable plan at the moment for having some kind of a van service. For the record, I think Allison informed me there's discussion in the future sometime if the TBD funds, if there's a change in their status, or we are able to work out in the legislature a way for us to use that for ongoing transportation needs, then there might be other choices. But right now, we're not able to access those funds. So it really comes down to, a volunteer effort with a van that WTA might provide. So I think that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Any
think this is our
questions on
best
this?
bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the Whitby Telecom update broadband. And
I don't know that there's anybody from Whitby here.
I don't see them.
The agenda is, to me, the agenda item is like an update on the broadband topic. And again, I can provide an update, and I see Bob Hillman is on.
Well, here, let me read for you. It's a broadband update and what was that?
Broadband alternative.
An alternative.
Yeah, so I took an action item last meeting to follow up on where the Whatcom PUD is in their request for proposal process for the fiber rollout based on the grant that they received from the Washington State Broadband Office. So I met with Bob first just to get an understanding, since PointNet was the mentioned partner for the PUD. And I then sent an email to Chris Heimgardner and Andrew Entricken from the PUD. I copied the executive just to express or reiterate kind of the needs of the Point Roberts community, which is, there seems to be a tension and a conflict here. Fiber to the premises, which is what the grant was for and is for, is in a way it's the gold standard, right? It's future proof, it's the highest bandwidth, it's hopefully it's the most reliable and all of that. However, it is expensive to lay out. It is also slow to lay out, as we are learning from the Whitby Telecom process, and they've run into some obstacles especially with the archaeological issues around the point. And then we don't know how much is the demand for that kind of service, because it's really high bandwidth, like a gigabit plus is what the fiber to the premises would enable. We don't know what the demand would be. On the other hand, having said that, that's still a great thing to have for the community over the long run, but we also have the needs, more immediate needs of something that's 150 megabit up and down, which is what we had put out in the initial recommendation from PRCAC based on the state minimums from Washington State. And something that can be rolled out quickly would be more cost effective. And so my email to Chris and Andrew was, is there a way we can balance this in the proposal that you sent out? Chris responded saying, no, actually there isn't. The grant is for fiber to the premises, and that's the only thing this can be used for. Also, in his email, he said, if actually there was another solution that's viable, then the basis of the grant that, much of Point Roberts is way below Washington State required minimums. If that situation changes, then actually that might also impact the basis of the grant itself. So his question back to us was, can you clarify, what does the community want? Does the community want fiber to the premises with the grant we have, or they want something else?
To the premises with a final rollout date of
2025 at the earliest.
The earliest, yeah.
Because we don't know what archaeological issues that might hit. And again, that's installation of fiber. That doesn't mean there's service. Service would have to be provided by an ISP and a service provider. At what rates, we don't know. At what but anyway, Chris's point was, the grant can only be used for this. So you guys let us know. If you want this, we will proceed. If you don't want it, then we can explore other options, but they are not from this grant. Now, the executive chimed in to say the Swiss counties, which I didn't know that acronym, but apparently it's the 5 counties in kind of this northwest corner of the state, are all having similar issues where fiber to the premises is, not proving to be a cost-effective solution. So he was like, maybe the state will provide some flexibility. But from Chris, I did not hear that there is any scope for flexibility. So his ask to us in this meeting was, Can you please reaffirm that the community still wants this fiber to the premises solution based on the grant there is? It's not a trade-off between with this grant, and Bob can chime in and correct me if my understanding is not correct, but I think it was pretty clear from Chris's mail. With this grant, the only thing that can be done is fiber to the premises. Do you want it or do you not want it? If you want something else, then funding for that is a different matter. So I think that's one question that we have to provide an answer. I told Chris that we would discuss it in this meeting and make a clear recommendation back. I know this is frustrating for Bob, and I've been CC'd on correspondence between Bob and the executive and others, where, yeah, there are a lot of questions unanswered about the fiber to the premises solution. Like I mentioned, when can it be rolled out? What will be the cost of any service? Is there even ISPs that will provide that service? But from the perspective of the grant, there's nothing else that the grant can be applied to.
And by the time we get another grant, we're still looking at 2025.
Fine. Yep.
Well, I don't know which other grant you're referring to, Anel, but
No, I'm just talking generically. By the time we could find and get and acquire a grant, that the timeline on that is not short.
Yeah, I don't know what grant, what another grant might be. I mean, my hope was that this is the last grant that we would need for Point Roberts. And I actually explicitly asked the question, can we use some funds out of this grant of 3.5 million, combining the state and county portions? Can we use like 20% for a more immediate solution and leave aside the remaining 80% for the fiber to the premises solution that can roll out over a few years? That way we have both covered. The answer from Chris was no. This grant can only be used for FTTP. So that's kind of where we are. I know it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for Bob, certainly, who's been involved in this effort and trying to get a faster to market solution. But we need to make a recommendation back, to PUD saying, do we want the FTTP solution, fiber to the premises, or not? Because like you said, the grant can only be used for that. So it's not a question of do you want A or B? It's a question of, we have a grant for A, do you want it still or not?
Yeah. Lady, come.
Bob, do you have any
in order to
additional
determine
comments?
that, then we will have to do some sort of a community survey.
Well, no, I don't want to. I mean, I think this is really a question to PRCAC. We are representatives. And as far as I'm concerned, if the choice was, do you want A or B from this grant, then it's a different conversation. But if the choice is, you can only have A, do you want it or not? Then I think, it'd be remiss of us to say we don't want A, because I think fiber to the premises, with all the uncertainty and the time, it's still an investment in the future infrastructure that, again, it was not easy to get that grant. So I don't see a reason for us to now say that we don't want it. Again, like I said, if it's a choice between two solutions, it's a different conversation. But if it's the only choice we have, then my inclination would be to say, yes, we want it. Too bad that we cannot have two solutions from the grant. I see hands for comments, but any comments first from Anel and Bill?
I guess I'd like to hear from Bob before I make a comment, because for me, it's all about time is of the essence. We're losing economically every day that we don't have high-speed internet. So Bob, what have you got to say?
I feel like a broken record. You know what? You got to keep your sense of humor through this whole thing. I will say, I probably spent more money than anybody else in Point Roberts to investigate a broadband project. My wife tells me it's close to $200,000. and she is not happy with me. I've spent it on studies. I've spent it on a whole lot of things. I really wanted to make this all about Point Roberts, but at this point in time, it looks like it's going to be about Tawasin and Abbotsford, BC, because the Canadians want to step up and invest in my company. And I'll use the fiber connection here, and I'll go where the business is.
Mhm.
All I asked of the county was for a $600,000 grant. And for that, we would provide service in 6 to 8 weeks. That's the best efforts on our part. And let me tell you, that is, nobody's getting rich at that. We end up rehabbing the cable network, converting it to data, and fixing all the physical things that people don't like about it, like the droop spans along Marine Drive and other places in the in the community. I mean, I've done all I can. I mean, I'm just to the point where, call me disappointed, severely disappointed. I'm not leaving the table. I'm not leaving the community, but wow, 600,000 versus 3.5 million.
Mhm.
3.5 million for the fiber, which only provides, by the way, half of the community. It doesn't provide the whole community. I've got a whole community solution that's for $600,000. And I tell you what, I spent richly to look at all the various alternatives and dismiss a pure wireless solution, dismiss a pure fiber solution, dismiss a pure cable solution. Got a hybrid solution that's very cost effective, and it'll bring everybody up to the state 2028 connectivity standard in 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks from funding. And you know what? I don't have anything more to say, really.
Main Street project could help us with.
I don't know right off the bat. I have a question for PRCAC, even for Bob. When you talk about a solution that's strictly fiber, is that, if I was sitting at the table, I know what the grant is for and so on. But if I was sitting at the table and said to you, look, my solution going forward is to do fiber in this day and age, what would you say to me? If forgetting everything, Prakash, what would you say to me? Say, I'm going to put fiber in.
I mean, we can have a discussion about different solutions and their merits and demerits, but I mean, fiber is considered in many ways to be the gold standard for a reason I mentioned in terms of future proofing and the highest bandwidth, and if it's installed correctly, the resilience and so on. Those are the pros. The cons: cost, time to install, and especially in Point Roberts, if it needs to go underground, we don't know when the completion date. 2025 is the earliest. Those are the cons, right? So,
right.
I think the frustrating part, for me, and Bob has his side, which he's done a lot more work than I have on this, obviously, is that we don't have any flexibility to say we can put a portion of the grant towards a more immediate solution and let the fiber work carry on over whatever period of time, and that's a long-term investment. That was the question I put to Chris, and the answer was no, there is no such flexibility in this grant. And Allison explained to me that I wish she was here, but that the grant, that the WSBO grant is based on some federal funds, and that these restrictions on use of might actually be at the federal level as well. So those are obviously way above our pay grade. So it is what it is from a grant perspective.
I got you. Because what I was thinking is that last solution, where yeah, sure, it's the gold standard, but if you can get something off the ground quickly, and come up with something hybrid, and then eventually move maybe to 100%
Yeah.
fiber.
Just
See
to
what I'm
be,
saying? That would make sense if I was sitting at the table with you.
that was the reason I sent the email, and like I said, the response
It
was.
just makes the most amount of sense, Prakash. Bob, what do you think?
Well, yeah, you have to get a degree in grant funding. My hats
Yeah, I
off.
know. I'm a little short on that.
My
Yeah.
hats off to Whitby Telecom, who seem to be experts at grant farming, but not so much the provision of timely internet service in Point Roberts. A couple of things just come to my mind as I think about this, and if I had deeper pockets, I'd have already built the darn thing. But I've spent about as much as I can. If the thing in Canada works out, maybe I can divert some funds from that to Point Roberts, because we're getting our fiber connection from. But I'm basically about to launch a border blaster, and if you wonder what a border blaster is, go research KVOS TV, and you'll see what.
Yeah, I think it's in the Point Roberts book.
What's that?
The Point Roberts book has references to border blasters. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I never had any involvement with that, and yeah, you're right. And I was on the other side of that argument, but that was a different subject, really. I will say that it's not a lot of money. We've looked at different ways to raise the capital, but the thing that bothers me right now is that I don't know. There's 4 or 5 of us on this thing. I wonder how many people in the community that I know of people in the community that can't support a Zoom call from the place that they live in.
That's my point. That's my point, because if you can't support that, then it's like, okay, I'm inviting people to come and live here and say, look, you can work from home like I did for all those years at the bank, but I had a gold standard setup that I went in and I had a little key and I could do anything I wanted from my office at home. But you can't do it here.
No, that's right. That's right. And I wrote something last week, earlier this week, I'm sorry, to the county executive, and I said, does it rise to an emergency status?
I saw yes, I saw that.
And I don't know that it does. Being without water is an emergency. Being without broadband, you're not going to die because you don't have broadband. You might lose your job, but you're not going to die. So I don't know. I like I said, I'm just really disappointed. I'm not giving up. I'll continue to slug away at it.
So just to clarify, Bob, and I know this is not necessarily the business of this committee, but you're still planning to be the partner to the PUD in the fiber project. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'm committed. I signed up for that, and we're not. That hasn't changed. And in 2025 or whenever that comes to fruition, PointNet will be one of the ISPs.
Yeah. I see one other hand up. Maybe Samantha. I would recommend let's hear that, and then I'll make a suggestion as to what I can write back to Chris, and then see if Anel and Bill, you guys can agree. Since we have 3 members.
I know.
Samantha?
So my only comment is I write grants most of the time now for a living. And when you get grants, you are absolutely, the worst thing you can do is not fulfill a grant that you already have. Because if you don't follow through on the grant you have, your record with whoever gave you the grant goes to shit. And then you apply for the next grant and they look at your record and they say, they thought they needed it, but then they changed their mind. And so then you go to the very bottom of the pile for anything you're asking for again. Yeah. And if you get one and you do a good job, then all of a sudden doors open like this because you did a good job. You provide the reporting, you got whatever they gave you money for. They want to give you more money. So I would under no circumstances would I, as
Mhm.
a person who has in the last year secured $1 million in funding, now I don't know, that's not a lot of money in the scope of things. It's still better than nothing. Don't turn away the money you have for the
Right.
money you want. Take the
Yep.
money you have, do a bloody good job with it, and then get asked for more. That's the end of my comment.
Yeah,
Mhm. Thanks, Samantha.
Any other comments?
no, I don't think so.
Elizabeth
Oh,
has her hand up.
You're muted, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, here I am. I concur with what Samantha said. If you're given money, take it and use it. I missed a few meetings because I was out of the country, but can you remind me again of how much the grant money was for? How much they gave us?
I think the state grant was, if I remember correctly, 3.15 million, and the county matching was 350K to bring us to 3.5. Is that
Wow.
correct?
Okay, so, and does that not cover fiber? Like with
No,
Whitney?
that's the only thing it covers. So the point is,
Oh, yeah.
it covers fiber. It's going to take a long time. I mean, long time as
Yeah.
in at least 2025. And, you know, we don't know who the ISP will be. So there's a lot of uncertainty with it, but I hear Samantha's point, and it was like that, if that's the only thing the monies can be used for, and we don't have flexibility, then, you know,
And I
that-
think we
yeah.
should take it and move ahead and do it. They've given us the money, grab it and go for it. That's
Yep.
my
Yeah.
opinion.
Any
Thank
other
you.
comments? Thank you, Elizabeth.
I'd
Bennett?
like to make one comment. It's worth looking up the meaning of dark fiber.
Yeah.
The world is full of dark fiber. What's dark fiber? Dark fiber is an empty pipeline. It goes nowhere and ends nowhere. It has no connection to anything. It's just a wonderful piece of fiber that's buried in the ground. And the world is full of it, sadly. And our federal government hasn't helped too much because I can't even keep up with the total. I think it's 135 billion with a B. They can't push that money fast enough out of Washington and through the states to make anything happen. And then you end up with a last mile solution where nobody can connect to it. And it's just really sad. It's really sad. It's like if the government gave everybody an electric car without the battery.
Bennett?
It's a real quick point. If Whitby wanted to, could they use the money to run the fiber overhead? I know they got rid of all their overhead cables in 1961 after storms, and they put everything underground. But if it's intended for use of fiber and they wanted to get it to the community really fast, they could pay the rental fees for using the poles and get the fiber up and actually run it directly to the houses until they could figure out solutions for around the archaeology and everything else.
So just to clarify, I think Whitby is operating under different grants, USDA grants. And I don't know what the restrictions are. Are they specifically for below ground, or can they?
Yeah, I
run
thought they
them?
were just for fiber to the house, and that was the requirement on them.
Yeah, so that's a different grant, and that's a different discussion of what the parameters are. The discussion we're having here is the WSBO grant, which is for fiber. Bob might have more information on, does it say fiber underground or can it run on the poles? I don't know. But since you're the partner to the PUD, Bob, do you have any insight?
Yeah, so let me talk first about the PUD project, just to clear that up. The PUD project is mostly overhead fiber. That means that it runs on the telephone poles where the telephone lines normally run at the 22-foot level above ground. And that's where the fiber will hang. Now, with regard to Whitby, I come from the wireless industry, the cellular industry, where nobody had everything you need. And so everybody cooperated with everybody else in good faith, because otherwise you couldn't serve the public. When I heard that they had discovered a problem with potentially midden artifacts, I wrote an open letter to Whitby offering to lease them on a short-term, long-term, or emergency basis overhead fiber in the southwest portion where they have the problem, southwest portion of Point Roberts where they have the problem. Never heard anything. And I'm not going to pursue them. It won't be a big money maker for us. I just, what goes around comes around, and I just did it in good faith.
Yeah, I remember from their presentation, it was a few months ago, but I think there were actually more than one slide there where they talked about the benefits of underground and why they prefer that. So that might be a Whitby decision.
Yeah, it's a preference, and then they can do whatever they want. But I'm telling you, if they wanted to establish service, they could darn well do it.
Okay, so let me bring this back, unless there are any other comments. The recommendation I would have is we write back to Chris saying, okay, if the only choice with this WSBO grant money is fiber to the premises, then it is the recommendation of the committee to proceed with that as quickly as we can. So for example, overhead as opposed to digging underground, because the urgency still remains. And if there's any scope for flexibility that arises in the future with the work of the executive and the Swiss counties and whatever else, then we would prefer that PUD also fund a more expeditious solution. I think that's the best we can do at this point because, under the constraints that we have.
With you, and I'm sure that Bill does as well. He just went to get a cough drop for his throat.
Okay. I do want Bill back because otherwise we don't have quorum.
Right. So, so who would actually take that money and use that money? I mean, Elizabeth and Sam have impressed upon us how important it is for us to do a good job of using the funds, but don't we have to have somebody who will
in this
take
case
the money?
is PUD, and PointNet is the partner that they went with for the grant. So I expect they'll be working with Bob and PointNet on laying out the fiber. And then looking for ISPs to provide service on top of that fiber. Is that correct again, Bob?
Yeah, it's mostly correct. The way the county is looking at this, the county doesn't want to be in the broadband business.
Correct.
So they're not a service provider. Service providers would be an ISP. It could be Whitby if they wanted. They could absolutely do it as well. Could be some other ISP from some other part of Whatcom County. I've surveyed them all because I've tried to do a partnership with them. And the Point Roberts market's just too small for everybody, period. I mean, that's the reality. And so, we're partnered with them. They'll build it. We'll enable service. It's worth noting, though, that this will be fiber service, so it'll be at the top of the cost range for service. So, it'll be a stretch for, many income challenged households in Point Roberts. They're talking about county flips around numbers like $85 to $100 a month. Well, it's a lot for internet. It's a lot more than the average person pays in the United States. So.
Yes.
Bill, you're back. I wanted to get a vote on this so that I can reply back to Chris in the PUD. My recommendation was to write back to Chris and copy the executive and say, well, if the only use of the grant, WSBO grant, is to use it for fiber to the premises, then yes, the committee recommends we go ahead and do that as expeditiously as we can, and also look forward to having an ISP or more than one ISP that would provide service, in a cost-effective manner. And if at some future point flexibility in the use of the grant funds becomes a possibility because of discussions between our county executive and other, county executives and Washington State, then we should also consider using a portion of the grant funds for a more expeditious solution. That's not something that they think is allowed right now.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do, because there's a lot of facets to that. I'd like to have someone make a motion that we accept PRCAC's recommendation. We have a motion on here. I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Good. Thank you,
Okay.
PRCAC. Proceed, go ahead. Go ahead and do that.
All
Okay?
right, thank you. It's it's fascinating how the wheels of government work. So that's
Hey,
all.
listen, trust me, I worked an awful lot, even at the bank. I worked a lot of years with the government, state, federal, civic, whatever. And yeah, there's a lot to it. All right, the next item. Next item. Okay, we're going to talk a bit about additional at-large membership. Haha.
So that needs to be an action item to check with Set Paul's office
Right.
to see where he is.
This has been going
And-
on for a while now.
Over a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Elizabeth
Elizabeth is saying
Peters.
over 2 years.
Yeah, it's at least, yeah.
Maybe, okay, I guess this is an Allison issue to follow up on.
Mhm.
Where we are.
Okay. I think we've done the dog park. Is that correct? Is there any further comment on the dog park?
No, we're not going.
Okay, we're not, environmental constraints, public information.
I don't know what that is about. Do you, Prakash?
Does that ring a bell?
No. Is that the septic stuff? No.
No.
Okay, well, we can move on since we don't have anybody to represent
Yeah,
it.
I think we need to have Allison here in order to cover these
The other one, the Transportation Benefit District
update. Yeah.
and Master Drainage Plan, right?
So on the
For
TBD, I mentioned this in the context of the WTA. I was not there, but maybe some of you were there. I understand Representative Schumack was there and said something about that she would make an effort to free up those funds for other uses,
Yes.
for any use.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there something else people want to add? So, because I wasn't there and I was curious what exactly was said.
I'm assuming, Prakash, that that Allison has an update, or that it just yeah, I'm assuming that she has an update that she hasn't shared with us.
Okay.
But you are
nobody else
correct.
was at
She
that
did make,
meeting?
she did say, she did make that statement. She
Okay.
did make that statement. How about any comment about water pressure?
We're not there yet.
No, we're not.
Point Roberts.
Master Drainage Plan.
Homeowner responsibility for drainage. That's a
Brian.
conversation that
Yeah.
we have over and over again. Then last meeting, when Chief was here,
Right.
Mary Edgley brought up a concern about fire evacuation and unblocking Roosevelt. And I don't know if anything has happened about that either. So I'll check with Chief. Because that's an international, well,
We can always create an international incident. We
Yeah.
just start moving Jersey barriers.
yeah,
No big deal. So also Bob had made, I think it was Bob, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bob. You wrote a letter about, something we had talked about, the emergency potential for what could happen to the point and why there should be something really addressed with evacuation and being able to get people out of here in an expeditious way.
Would you like me to comment?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, Bob, were you the one that sent the document about the, talking about the, maybe it was somebody else, but I thought it was you.
No, it was
Talked
me.
about the trees and I always say, because once it gets up once the fires get up into that canopy, you're not going to have much time to get off this point.
I was going to say that, and it was me who wrote that. And so way back in my career, I got in a roadblock at one point in DC, and I was forced out of my car to fight a fire because they can tell you to do that in the province of DC. So, I saw it firsthand, and I can tell you it's really frightening once it gets into the, the, whatever you want to call it, the evergreen canopy, because it just pours across that, and it literally sucks the air, out of the area. People pass out.
No, yeah. I've seen.
So my point was that, need to find a way to get the message out quickly. I mean, if you look at Lahaina, the problem was that nobody knew what was going on. It happened early in the morning. People were probably mostly asleep. And, when the lights went out and everything started to go to heck in a handbasket, nobody got the proper warning. Those that were resilient jumped into the ocean and watched the town burn down. I mean, that's pretty frightening, and we still don't know how many casualties there were there, and I suspect that it's going to be much higher than the numbers that we know about today. So how do you get the message out quickly? And I think you need a system that does that. And by the way, and this is a sort of an aside to point, but it's cheap. There is a thing that the FCC does about once every 10 years, and you're doing it again right now. The community can file for a low power FM license, and you can do whatever you want with that thing. You don't have to generate advertising revenue. You're not in the business of being a broadcaster, but you can sure as heck use it for an alarm system.
I got you.
You can play elevator music every day, 24 hours a day. Doesn't take much power to run one of those things. They're limited in power and they're limited in coverage area, but you could use it as you have to be my age to remember Conelrad. Conelrad's gone, but you could build that in Point Roberts for hundreds of dollars, not tens of dollars.
I can. Bob. It's okay, Bob. I can remember Conelrad too. I also can remember them.
You're not old enough.
No, I can also remember them telling me to stay under my desk when they drop the H-bomb, that I should be okay under my desk. Everything's fine.
Right.
So it should be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think the action
got
item,
that.
sorry to jump in there. From the last meeting, I think the action item here was to talk with PrEP and make sure this is incorporated into the PrEP plans. I don't know if anybody here is part of PrEP.
No, neither. And you're right, Prakash, talking about being able to have a gate that locks and unlocks easily. Who has access to that to open up Roosevelt Road. So, that's a conversation to have with PrEP. And we'll do a follow-up on that. Okay,
sorry, just to be clear, when we say we, Bill, should we put a name?
Yeah, we're
Down on my list of things to do.
Thank you. No.
You bet. All right, now I think, are we at the water pressure?
Yeah, but I don't
Neither do I.
Yes. This has to do with a rumor about a state or a county regulation. I think it was a county regulation that they would not be issuing building permits to houses where the water pressure was not at 50 pounds.
50 pounds.
And if that's the case, then there will be no further building permits issued in Point Roberts,
Yeah. trust me.
or very few of them issued, because we have a gravity system rather than a pump.
Oh.
And so we need to find out what that is exactly, and go from there.
All right. Any new business?
I'm still on the water pressure. I, for one,
Oh.
have noticed that my water pressure is not as good as it was. So has anybody else experienced that?
Yeah, I have, Elizabeth. Where are you again?
I'm on Marine Drive, 700 block Marine Drive. And for the last week, my water pressure is very low and slow. Yeah. Anybody else besides Anel and I? No? Okay.
Yes, everywhere.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Lee.
Doesn't that usually mean there's a leak somewhere in the system and someone should call the water board?
Well, the whole system is apparently reaching its past its sell-by date and is in need of restoration, renovation, etc.
The only reason water system loses pressure is if there's a leak and the water's going somewhere else. So the last time that happened, all of Clare Lane flooded because there was a leak. There was a whole bunch of flooding along Clare Lane because there was a main water line that lost power, lost a wall or something, and the water went everywhere.
I believe increase in usage might have something to do with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't in Point Roberts. There's not enough people that it would make a difference, especially when you're in September versus in August.
Would it be worth contacting the water board to let them know that?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Let
Okay.
them know that, Elizabeth. We installed a pump at my house, an electric pump, which of course runs electricity and runs my bill up, but it does make it possible for my dishwasher to operate.
Okay, thank you.
Not very well, but it does. It makes a difference. So it might be something you want to take a look at doing.
Okay, thank you.
Again, in the interim, these solutions are not rapid. In Point Roberts, everything takes time.
Everything takes time. Yeah.
Okay, second public comment. Anybody else have anything else to say?
Did we have some new business?
Well, we asked for new business. Do you have new business, Bob?
Yeah, there is a public comment out for broadband and for community connectivity. I'll forward it to you. It's not something that we're involved in, but I think it's worth looking at from a public comment point of view. So
This is the article that was in the Whatcom County publication. Is this the one that you're talking about, Bob?
no, well, maybe I don't. They may have covered it as well, but I got it from the Washington State Broadband Office.
Oh, you're not talking about the individual who made a comment on the Point Roberts broadband situation.
Yeah, no, it's got nothing to do with Point Roberts. It's just general Wi-Fi and connectivity, and it's a public comment period.
Oh, okay. I think that'd be useful. We can also share it out on Nextdoor.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good, Bob. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Thank
All
you.
right, so how about if
I move to adjourn.
I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good
Right,
night.
see you next time.
Thanks. Thank you.